This Three Beards Media podcast is sponsored by Revelton Distilling Company. When Robb and Chrissy Taylor started following the Kentucky Bourbon Trail in 2012, they fell in love with not only bourbon, but the entire distilling process. Just 8 short years later, in 2020, Revelton Distilling Company was opened, offering an entire family of products including vodka, gin, whiskey, and Revelton Shine. Come visit the tasting room at 1400 West Clay Street in Osceola, Iowa, where you can sample one of their many spirits, including 4 gold medal winners. Can't make it to Osceola today? Not a problem, as you can pick some up at your local Hy-Vee or Fairway grocery stores. Follow Revelton Distilling on Twitter or Instagram at ReveltonDC or their website www.reveltondistilling.com.
This Three Beards Media podcast may contain mature themes, and if you're not down with that, we got 3 words for you. Like the podcast. Nailed it!
Would you like to sample some of my nuts?
Hello and welcome to Old Man Strength, a podcast of Three Beards Media, brought to you by Revelton Distilling Company. I am Tim Johnson, joined, as always, by Chris Shipley. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
Not too bad. Made it by the skin of my teeth, man. It was a busy afternoon.
I hear you. It was a very, very full day at the brewery, so very grateful to be joining you. I actually had yesterday off, election day, which was nice.
Nice.
But I was at the brewery until after 8 on Monday, and it was a very long day today. So
the brewery closed? Because I would assume that on election day, that would be the day people would want to drink the most.
It was closed all day. There was a private election results party at the brewery. So
okay.
That was all right for us. But otherwise, we wanted to make sure that all the staff could get out and make sure they could vote. So we treat it like a holiday at work, which is great.
That's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into this. I'm going to be getting up super early to get on a flight to Vegas. So we will get running on this thing. Chris, why don't you
I feel like a 3-hour episode's coming on, then we'll get you all.
Oh God. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. And that is quite all right. I'm excited to talk to our guest this evening. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest?
Me too. Well, I've kind of followed him, his business through social media and stuff. And I was good friends with his wife. We worked out together. Well, she worked out. I almost had a heart attack every morning. Robb Prohaska, who runs Brown Dogs Farms, he's local here in Norwalk, in my little hometown here. So he is a little company there, makes amazing hot sauces and dipping sauces, and I think he's got a pretty cool story, and he seems like right up our alley as far as going off the rails and whatever. So we thought we'd bring Robb on and talk sports and talk life and talk farming and his business. And Robb, thanks for coming on Old Man Strength. I still have not come up with a cool little coolism to, is that the word, Tim? I don't know if that's even the word.
I don't even know what you're trying to say. So
I'm trying to, it's like, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
Good. I'm glad that
I spent a couple days in Wisconsin. I've lost some brain cells. I don't know what to tell you. Robb, that was a terrible intro. I apologize. We're much more professional than that. Robb, thanks for coming on Old Man Strength.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I had no idea what you were trying to say either. So I didn't realize that this was such an educational project here.
Oh God, no. I mean, let's be honest. I make about 5 or 6 of those an episode, so it's all right.
Okay.
Perfect.
Get ready.
Yeah. So Rob, thanks for coming on. I give this great description, but I don't know that it could do it justice because you have quite the little enterprise going on down there in Norwalk that's started, which is the initial reason why I brought you on. But then as we've talked, I've gotten to know a little bit more about you're a big sports fan. So I'm sure we'll hit that. I hear that you're a Hawkeye fan, which we won't hold that against you.
Yeah.
We do tend to bring in the enemy every once in a while, especially this year now that we won. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and who you are and give the listeners a little insight?
Sure. I'm born and raised Iowan, started on the south side of Des Moines. Now we've moved a little further south into Norwalk. My wife and I started this business 4 years. I think this is our 4th year. We have sweet and spicy hot sauces. We blend our peppers with fruit so that they actually taste really good. And then they're also hot. Kind of does this thing to your brain where you're like, hey, that's actually really good. And then like, oh shit, that was pretty hot. And then you just keep coming back, right? Like, oh, we can cuss, right? Am I okay?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. All right, good. Because if not, it'd be a lot of editing work, and I don't think anybody has time.
Yeah, which is why we cuss on here because I ain't got a lot of time to edit those out.
Yeah, great. Yeah. So yeah, it's our 4th year. Like I said, we added ranch and spicy ranch to the mix. Some of our other flavors are like ghost pineapple, which is ghost. By the way, all of our naming conventions, super difficult, meetings trying to come up with them. Brown Dogs Farm. It's Brown Dogs Farm because we have brown dogs. So that's super complex. And then, ghost pineapple means that there's ghost pepper and pineapple in it. Habanero peach would be habaneros and peach, and so on down the line, right? Like all of our stuff is super aptly named. No hidden meanings in any of it. So we keep it really simple that way. But the sauces themselves are really complex. I think it's a lot different than what most people think of, when they first taste it. We get a lot of that, like, oh, like they're surprised that I made something good. I don't know how to take.
Well, I do remember. So Amanda and I worked out at Farrell's 5:15 every morning, and we were back in the back corner. And I remember when I first heard about it, she was telling me that you guys were going to have a little launch party at the Chicken, which is the local restaurant here outside of Norwalk. And she was handing out bottles to people that at the gym every morning. And I was like, what is this? And so she kind of explained to me. And I remember telling my wife, I mean, I'll look for any reason to go to the Chicken. It's a great restaurant. But that I wanted to go on this Saturday to go check you guys out. And Caitlin, my daughter, absolutely fell in love with it. She wanted to buy every bottle. And so we bought quite a bit, and we keep a pretty hefty stock here in the house. But I always wonder, like, the idea when it first comes, you got to have a pretty supportive spouse, I would imagine, if you're going to come up with this idea. But what were you doing before that, and what led you into wanting to do this?
Yeah, so that's it's kind of a winding thing.
That's perfect for us. That's perfect.
Good. As far as the Chicken, like Full Court Press, I don't know, how familiar everybody is with that, but they own quite a few bars and restaurants here locally.
Yep.
High Life Lounge, Bait Shop. I actually bartended at those places way back 10, 12 years, 12 to 15 years ago, I would say. And they also own like Fong's and the Royal Mile and, Truman's and a lot of places. So I'm going to leave some out, but that's why we ended up at the Chicken. Basically, I stopped drinking and quit bartending. It's been 11 years, and not in that order. I quit bartending. I got fired from bartending, and and then ultimately, I got in some trouble. Like it was not going well for me. And nobody usually quits drinking because it's going super well, right? It's not like, man, I'm just having a blast and everything in my life is going splendid. I think I'll quit. That's not how it goes. So anyway, I met Amanda after that, or else we probably would have never gotten married. Or she probably wouldn't even have talked to me, to be honest. She seems to have her head on her shoulders pretty well. So we got this acreage out here in Norwalk, and when I was a kid, my grandpa would grow sweet corn and we would sell it out of the back of the old blue truck in the summers. It's like a super fond memory. I don't remember how much it was for a dozen back then, but I remember that's when I learned to put 13 ears in a dozen, right? Give people a little extra. They really like that. And I just remember how like happy everyone was to give me their money, right? And I don't know, there's not a whole lot of businesses where people are just super stoked to hand you their money, right? And selling sweet corn in Iowa is absolutely that. Like people love it, especially if it's grown like real local in their backyard type thing. So when we got this place out here, I wanted to just do kind of something similar, right? I wanted to grow a bunch of sweet corn. We were canning tomatoes or making some salsa. She was making zucchini bread, just real simple stuff. And we did a couple pop-up sales out of our driveway. We just called it Brown Dogs Farm. Like I said, we had the brown dogs, and it caught the attention of the full court press guys. And so we were at the Chicken. It had just launched, and we were there having dinner. Dennis Epps, one of the cooks there, one of the kind of menu makers for Full Court Press. He's an old friend of mine. We had a lot of good times together, and he said, "I really like what you're doing with the Brown Dogs Farm stuff. But we can't really like sell sweet corn here, and we can't put salsa out. But like, what if you made hot sauce? Like, have you ever thought about that?" At the time, I'd never thought about it, but I did love hot sauce, right? I put it on about everything. So it just kind of triggered something for me. I went home, and that same kind of addictive personality trait that got me into so much trouble with booze really helped me to kind of figure out how to make hot sauce. And then, not only figure out how to make hot sauce, but I would go to the grocery store. Amanda would be shopping, and I would just be staring at hot sauce aisles. I'd take pictures. I was a total like hot sauce aisle creeper, and yeah, it was weird. And I'd come home and I'd zoom them up, and I'm just looking at it like, what's not there? Like what's missing, right? Because I'd made a few recipes. They just taste like stuff you'd already had. I knew that wasn't really going to go anywhere. So I stared and stared and stared, and I thought it was fruit. I thought they were missing like fruit and flavor. Like everybody's hot sauce is either like how authentic it can be with, peppers and old school recipes, or how hot can it be, right? And so I wanted to do something completely different that would catch somebody's attention. And that, what we found was fruit and flavor. I took it back up to Dennis, with this name, with these bottles, these crazy flavor combinations, and he loved it. And from there, I found a co-packer, which is something that, you would really realize that every product has to be produced somewhere. You can't just make it in your kitchen, right?
Which, to be honest with you, at the beginning, that's what I thought you guys were doing.
Yeah, well, and I think a lot of small businesses would start that way, but because we kind of already had our foot in the door with 10 restaurants, we knew that we needed something a little bit bigger, right? We needed to have a plan further ahead, if that makes sense. So actually, I found a co-packer. I searched all around, and I found one in Indianola, which is 20 minutes from my house, which couldn't be a better deal for me. Rick Valentine Foods, great guy, great company to work with. We have a super good relationship. We've really grown with them over the past 4 years, and he's grown at the same time. And it's just so nice to be able to just like literally go get my product 20 minutes from here, go meet with him, talk to him, you know what I mean? And we kind of come from the same background, right? Some culinary experience, some life on the farm experience, and so on. And so that's just kind of how everything came together. We started in the restaurants. We were in a grocery store, 2 grocery stores, 5 grocery stores. Now we're in like 100 stores, right? And it just keeps expanding that way. Like we're doing bigger and better. Well, I don't know about better, but we're doing bigger things, cooler things. Like we have a deal with the Iowa Wild this year that we're super excited about. What a great team to have a deal with this year with Luca and Jay Bo and guys from Duke and a bunch of just great players. We're just about to launch a deal with the Iowa Wild as well, which not super familiar with hockey, but it looks really fun. It's really bright at the games. I like when they hit each other. But no, I think that's going to be a lot of fun too. Like they have some really cool promotions, and kind of seeing our stuff on that stage is it's really neat to see, right?
So you mentioned the wolves and the wild. So what does that kind of that partnership look like for a hot sauce? You think about stadium arena food. You don't necessarily think of hot sauce right off the bat.
Right. So like, first of all, like we just like to do cool shit, right? Like I'm kind of a sneakerhead. I'm a basketball junkie. And so like a lot of our marketing has just been based off of like stuff that I like. Like I ripped the Vans logo. I ripped the Nike like Got 'em logo. Like I just do stuff that I think is cool. Now we're getting to a point where I have to try to think outside of my own personal preferences, right? Where I want to like market to people who don't just think like me, because I don't know how many people do that. And I feel sorry for the ones who do. But yeah, so the partnership, and by the way, I'm kind of a rambler, so feel free to just like tug me back in.
These are the best guests we get, are the ones that ramble.
Reel me in, please. But no, what it looks like, especially with the Iowa Wolves, that one we already have kicking off. We did actually, I can show you, but we did these box sets.
Those are
and
cool.
They have 3 bottles in them. They're, we made 350 of them. They're commemorative, the 2022, 2023 Iowa Wolves Howlin' Hot Pack. Howl, yeah, which how fun is that, right? Yeah, it's fun. And then, I went to a game last year and I sat courtside, and you think it's a minor league basketball team, whatever. Man, I had so much fun. And I realized that I've never been good at basketball, right? Even though I still play 3 times a week. I've played at decent levels, but boy, these guys are so talented. They're so big and strong and fast, and the atmosphere, there is really cool because it's not like super crowded. It's got a decent crowd, but it's not like overwhelming. Like you go to an NBA game and it's very like you feel like you're kind of tucked in, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to get like a lot of great access. It's not like that with the Iowa Wolves, right? You really feel like it's an accessible environment. You can kind of hear the players. You can really see them well. And so I was really hooked on it. And I just wanted to do something with those guys. So we met a few times and we came up with these hot boxes. What we're going to do is actually a hot replay of the game or a hot play of the game. Hopefully it's like a big dunk, or a rejection, or Garza hits like a 3 or whatever. And then we're going to give out a bunch of these boxes at the games, right? So
nice.
You've been to a lot of sporting events. Usually you get like a little ball or a t-shirt or a coupon for a hot dog or some shit. We're going to give you some pretty cool boxes with some hot sauce in them. People get to try the hot sauce or give it to people that they know that like hot sauce, and it's good for us. And I like being involved in it too,
Well, and what a good year to get involved with the Iowa Wolves with J-Bo being there and Garza. They're going to get good crowds down there. And since, to be honest with you, I've hated those guys for probably the last 5 years. So but since J-Bo's been on Iowa Everywhere with Jared Stansberry and their podcast, he's kind of grown on me a little bit. So, and he did some cool stuff with his shoes and raising money for the Children's Hospital. So I'll let that pass. But I mean, he's graduated now, so I suppose I can like him.
Right. Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all people, and boy, they're good at what they do. Right. I personally,
I mean, he should be. He's only been playing college basketball for 7 years.
Is that right? Yeah. Is that the deal? He gets, yeah. Well,
he learned from Dr. Naismith himself, actually. I think.
That's great.
He doesn't look that old in person. I'm gonna be honest with you. He just I don't think he could get on old man strength. He's not there yet.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. Well, we used to always make fun of Perry Ellis at Kansas because Perry Ellis looked like he was 45 when he was 19 years old.
Right.
But I think he played with his grandkid.
Yeah, but Jordan Bohannon will look 25 when he's 45. So
he's kind of got more like
for him.
The BJ Armstrong look, right? Where it's just
sure.
a baby face forever. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember an interview with BJ Armstrong back when he was playing for the Bulls, and it was like an NBA Inside Stuff or something like that, and they asked him if he even had to shave, and he was like, not every day. And I remember as a baby-faced little kid thinking, okay, I'm not the only one who's not going to hit puberty until I'm 43. So.
Yeah. Just think of all the money he saved on razors. They're so expensive. I mean, that's like the main reason I keep a beard.
I was going to say, that's why I don't
Right.
shave now. Yeah, absolutely.
It's too expensive.
That's awesome. And it's cool to see the Iowa Wolves kind of get going. You know, as a Timberwolves fan up here in Minneapolis, it's kind of fun to see something that close. So I'm gonna have to come on down to a Wolves game and check out your promotions in person for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the T-Wolves too. Like, it's just a good organization right now, right? Like, they have a really solid team up in Minnesota. Like I said, I'm a basketball junkie, so. You know, the NBA has kind of really shaped my current fandom, you know, because I think for the longest time, I'm a diehard, you know, a favorite team guy, which I think a lot of people are. But in the NBA, I love it so much that I would either like individual players, they become my favorite just because of their mannerisms or how they play. And I just like every team. Like, I either like every team or I like to watch them lose. So, you know, there's certain guys that just irritate me, and that's fun too, right? Like, sports hate is equally as fun as sports love, I think.
Oh, for sure.
You know, even when he was on the Timberwolves, I have always loved to hate Jimmy Butler. So
yeah,
I understand that. Any team that he plays for, I not so secretly root against. So I get that.
So that's kind of opened me up to, like, you know, like, why am I so stuck on just watching Hawkeye football every Saturday? Like, like, I love the Hawks. It's a pretty boring brand of football. You know what I mean? Like, it just is.
I mean,
that's the rumor.
Well, I mean, you know, they get a lot of knock for it being boring this year, but this is not the first year where last year when they had a great record, they were still a really unfun brand of football to watch.
It's a football philosophy that's really not very current, in my opinion. And so, you know, I'm not afraid to flip over and watch that Tennessee Alabama game or you know, whatever the game is. Like, I just want to watch cool stuff, right? Like, I want to see great things happen. And I think that's like, you know, came to me as an NBA fan where I'm just like, wait, why am I only watching the Cubs, you know, even when they're terrible? Like, why am I only watching the Hawkeye? Like, I only have, you know, sometimes, you know, 3 hours in a night or 3 hours on a weekend to watch sports. I don't really want to waste it on something that's not going to be that fun. Like, I wanted to see the best shit.
You know, growing up, there wasn't access to a billion games, right?
True.
And in Iowa, you probably got WGN if you had cable at all.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Right. And if you didn't have cable,
And
then
TBS.
still the only without cable, you might catch a Cubs game. You probably weren't going to catch any NBA games other than if the Lakers and the Celtics were playing on Sunday on you know,
NBC
a Sunday. Right. You didn't catch that. And so now, you know, between the billion cable and satellite and whatever options and streaming options you can catch, and then you want, certainly for me, moving up to a metropolitan area and being able to catch the Timberwolves, they're not playing so hot this evening right now. But you do get access, and in some ways it's almost sort of an overload of that, but in other ways, yeah, you're right. We got so trained to you watch one team and one game because that's the only option you have, and you kind of forget that there's other options sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've got friends who are still kind of stuck in the old thought of you know, like, well, I'm a Thunder fan, so I haven't really watched the NBA for 2 seasons. And it's like, man, you are missing out. Like, there has been some really like, there's this guy named Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is so good. You know what I mean? Like,
when you say Thunder, I'm still old school enough that I think about the Quad City Thunder. So,
oh boy, yeah. Was that from the movie with Will Ferrell?
It might as well have been. Absolutely. It
that
certainly.
was the tropical.
Yeah,
Thunder,
the Flint
right?
the Flint Tropics.
The Tropics. Tropic
Yeah.
Thunder is a whole other movie.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, that's pretty. Yeah, that's a nice
I
mashup
just
of movies
combined
there.
a bunch of stuff. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no, no, that's fantastic. Yeah,
It
no,
just shows that you know more than I do.
There's a lot of stuff up there rattling around, but it's not in any particular order.
We're probably going to take 7 billion segues. One thing I wanted to get back to with the sauces. So you had mentioned the fruit component, which I think is great. I think a lot of people are familiar with like a Buffalo Wild Wings mango habanero, but not a whole lot of other fruit really kind of getting in there. But that heat and sweet component, and you're right. You look at a lot of the hot sauces, they might have one or two fruit as kind of a novelty thing for them, but it's not kind of their identity. Have you really found that like that's where grocery and restaurant, like that's where they kind of find your niches?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, I stared at those aisles. If someone did have fruit, it was like you said, it was mango, or it was, I don't know, is lime a fruit? I don't really know. I'm not an expert. I should be. Should be.
Lime's a fruit.
It's a great question.
Yeah. So anyway, but it would be like the smallest word on the bottle, right? And so we wanted to make sure that like again, I'm showing props on an audio medium.
That's right. We pull videos sometimes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Cool. So we wanted to make sure that the fruit was like the biggest word on the bottle, and we wanted to lead with it. And so our thing is like, yeah, I know you want hot, right? I know you want hot sauce, but like, is it okay if it tastes good? You know what I mean? Like, is that a deal breaker if this actually tastes really good, or do you only want it to be hot? And most people actually like stuff that tastes good when they're eating. It's shocking. Shocking thing to find out.
those crazy things like taste buds.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's something that just completely burns them off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be one of those folks that just wanted heat, just to kind of show off that I could eat a lot of heat. Now I'm old and my stomach can't always take a lot of heat, but I still want something to actually have flavor. When I was working at the headquarters of Buffalo Wild Wings, and we would do a day where we were doing a sauce tasting, or like particularly when you're developing a ghost pepper sauce, and vendors would bring in like 3 or 4 different versions for you, and it's 9:00 in the morning, and you're trying to eat hot sauce on wings, like along with your coffee, and it was one of the more miserable experiences. Like people are like, oh no, don't you love that you just get to like eat wings all day? And I'm like, eating ghost pepper sauce at 9 a.m. is not as sexy as you think it is. So
yeah,
what is that R&D kind of development process look like for you?
So it's just what you said. It's a lot of like trial and error, right? And also like making sure that it's stuff that we've not already heard of, right? That's important to us. And it's I really like ghost pepper. I think it's actually a really good pepper. It has kind of a smoky characteristic to it that you usually don't get to appreciate because it's so damn hot, right? So it was like, how do I make this like edible, right? That's always where we start. It's like, how do we make this edible? And a lot of times I make batches that, are a little tough, they're and then trying to just find that balance where, first bite, you want it to taste good and be a little bit hot, and maybe halfway through your meal, if you start to have a little bit of sweat, you're starting to kind of push some of those toxins out of your body. That's good. That's healthy. We have a cherry rhubarb reaper, which has the Carolina Reaper in it, which is a super hot pepper. And again, like you would think that I'd be more knowledgeable than I am about some of these things, but I didn't realize the Reaper is twice as hot as a ghost pepper. So when I first started developing that one, I was putting the same amount that I would for a ghost pepper sauce. And I'm going to get arrested. Like, I can't sell this to people. I think my eyeballs were sweating. Like, it was really tough. And then I actually had to Google like long-term damage of eating too spicy food. And I found that, I'm not the cultures that eat the spiciest cuisines actually have like, lower risk of heart issues and things like that. It's actually very healthy for you. Now I'm sure everything in moderation is something you would, believe it or not, I'm not the best with moderation. I'm kind of all in or all out on stuff. So,
you certainly learn to wash your hands frequently while doing a process like that. Gloves. I'll tell you that much.
Just wear gloves.
Gloves. Yeah.
No, gloves. And COVID, there's been a few kind of like people are a little bit cleaner now. There's a few little things that COVID maybe improved. And I realized that mask that they made us wear forever, so perfect for making hot sauces, because you breathe in those pepper fumes and it gets into your chest and you're kind of coughing and sinuses. But those masks are ideal for that. So that was nice to learn.
Well, and I saw on your website that you guys have started to make ranch now as well.
Yeah. So we were just combining our ghost pear hot sauce with like just some basic ranch that we found in the fridge. I guess we bought it, but we didn't just find it in the fridge. That'd be weird. But it was like, it was like Hy-Vee brand, like just your most basic. It was like, man, this is really good, right? So it's just like, well, why don't I like make a ranch recipe so that it's a little better than this to start with, and then we just combine this, because one of the people that I work with, I don't know if Allspice, I don't know. Anyways, they had told me kind of like in general, like people don't want to have to do anything, right? Like, so even the idea of just telling people like, hey, take our ghost pears hot sauce and blend it with ranch, and you've got a really cool ranch. Like people are like, yeah, cool, but like I don't want to do that. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Can you just bottle it for me and I'll just pay you to do that? And then I just put it, sure. So that's what we did. And we went ahead and released the classic ranch as well, just to kind of get a few more people involved, people who don't like anything spicy at all. Now they can enjoy our ranch dressing. So it kind of widened our audience a little bit.
Which is actually kind of, it's funny because the boys here will eat ranch on every single thing.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they don't care for yours, which allows me to keep mine in there of yours so that they don't touch it. I buy them the cheap $1.50 stuff, and then I get the good stuff for me. Otherwise, it would be gone. You'd probably build an extra wing on the amount of ranch that I pay for around in this house.
Well, hopefully they come around to it in that case.
I think they will. They're young. They don't know any better.
Caitlin
doesn't live here anymore, so I get more of it myself as well. So
good. I'm glad we have something that's just for you.
That's right. That's right.
I've always been more of a blue cheese. I think a spicy blue cheese would be kind of nice though too.
Yeah, I love blue cheese. It seems like it would be hard to make. I don't know. I don't want to do anything too hard.
Which is why he's an Iowa fan.
Oh wow. No, you are absolutely right about the people don't want to do it. Like we make a seltzer at the brewery that I'm at, and it's not. I mean, it's seltzer. It's an unflavored seltzer. It's not anything special. And all the time, I'm always like, you can just make, just take sparkling water and vodka and make your own hard seltzer. Like there's nothing magical about it. But people want to buy that ready-made product rather than taking only two things and mixing them together. That in and of itself is too much effort. So I appreciate the idea of making a spicy ranch. I think that's pretty incredible. I'm going to have to make sure to pick up a bottle of that.
Yeah. And we're in, I think, I know you're in Minnesota. Are you in Minneapolis?
I'm in Minneapolis. Yeah.
We're in a few of the stores there now too, the Hy-Vees. So
excellent. Yeah. I'll have to take a look for sure.
Shameless promotion there.
Hey, that's what this is all about, man. You right. Go ahead and shamelessly plug whatever you want. No, that's really cool. I did in advance of this take a look at the website and your packaging I think is great. I think it certainly stands out. But you kind of mentioned a little bit about doing some knockoff on some of that merch too. I think that's a lot of fun. The different kind of look and feel knockoff sports and some of those things that you have going on. Like you mentioned the Vans. That was the very first one I gravitated towards as I was looking at that stuff.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense for us. Our dog Hank, English Bulldog, he's our logo, and he actually, it's like a bulldog trait. He loves to skateboard. So we kind of took the off the wall, I think, is the Vans,
Mhm.
and we switched it to off the porch, which in retrospect, I kind of wish I would have done off the leash, but I don't know.
Well.
They both work. Yeah, we put Hank on the skateboard. It looks super cool. We really dig it. And I think, what's the rule? You just have to make it 10% different and it's yours. So
There you go.
Yeah.
worst case scenario, Van sends me a cease and desist. So I think
I've
that would
gotten those
just
before.
good. Yeah, it's just a popularity boost.
That's right. It just means that somebody
Free
saw my
publicity.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Saw my stuff. That's all that means.
No, just me telling you to stop is not the same thing as a cease and
No,
desist.
I did
Chris.
actually get a cease. I did actually get a cease and desist one time. The greatest thing ever though was I completely came up with this non-stolen image on this T-shirt that I sold a few things for, and about 6 months ago, I Googled something, and this Chinese website had the exact same T-shirt that I had designed a year ago on its website that they had grabbed and knocked off, and I was like, I made it.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
there's a Chinese knockoff.
Yeah, if you can find a version of yours on Wish, that's when you know
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, what do you know?
Yeah, it's like the most sincere form of flattery, right? When people start stealing stuff from you.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and take a break and grab a word from our sponsor, Revelton Distilling Company, and we will be back in just a second and talk a little bit more with Rob about Brown Dogs Farms and literally anything else I think we want to talk about. So, please stick with us. We'll be back in just a bit.
It's fall, it's football, and no better time to celebrate those victories or soothe away those losses like a drink from Revelton Distilling Company. Imagine a cool, crisp Saturday morning at your tailgate, friends and family enjoying a quick morning cup of coffee spiced up with Revelton's Whiskey Cream and Liqueur. Their cream liqueur is made from a 3-year-old Iowa corn bourbon whiskey with a cream and notes of chocolate and honey. Wow, does that not sound like the perfect way to begin a day watching your favorite team dominate on the field? Then after the game, sit back and relax with one of a kind honey old fashioned with Revelton's Honey Whiskey. Oh, and something new and exciting is on the horizon. So be sure to check out all their updates on their Twitter or Instagram page at ReveltonDC.
Welcome back. Rob, before the break, we were talking a little bit about the ranch, about the what other products you guys have done. I'm curious, are there any other things kind of on the horizon or any other brand extension? Any other thoughts that you could see on the future that you guys might have?
Yeah, I mean, so we've put out 8 products and we have 6 hot sauces and 2 ranch dressings. So 8 products in 4 years. We don't really want to flood it, right? We kind of have like a pretty high standard that we're trying to keep our products to. We want them to be, like kind of like top shelf, but at a reasonable price. And maybe top shelf is me being cocky. That's okay. That's okay. But no, so what we do have that's kind of new, that's coming really soon. We have mini bottles, which are basically like your alcohol shooters.
Like your airline bottle.
Yeah, airplane bottles, what we used to call them. I don't know what people call things anymore. Like I said, I retired from drinking a few years ago, and now like the whole alcohol world just blows my mind. I see all these skinny cans, and I don't understand any of it. I feel very old. Yeah, so airplane bottles, that's what we have coming. They should be done in a couple of weeks. So those are going to be a lot of fun. Really good like stocking stuffers and stuff like that. We'll have them on our website. And we just did a deal with Raygun. So we have, and I don't know if you're familiar with Raygun.
Absolutely,
probably, yeah, right. Words on a shirt, right? They're super cool. It's like I said before, I really enjoy like partnering up with other brands that I think are super cool and other entities that I think are cool that I look up to, and being on that level to be able to even partner with them is really rad for me. So we have some hoodies that say like, they've got like Hank saying like, what does it say? Shit. Regular hot sauce, woof. Brown Dogs Farm, yes. It's kind of a very like cocky kind of thing. And then we have a few, like some can coolers, some coasters, a bunch of stuff with them, some towels. We're doing some beanies with Fontenelle Supply. I guess stocking caps. I don't know. Maybe stocking caps is more appropriate term for them. I don't know what a beanie is, to be honest with you. Like a smaller stocking cap. I don't know.
I know. Half the people up here.
Tim
call
knows.
them
He's got a small head.
Yeah.
It's got a whole
Yeah,
giant body.
I don't really know that's an insult. We don't have that huge melon of yours. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
that
also huge head. It's
That
because
backfired.
the brain is so big. You have to
That's
have a
right.
big shell to
That's
contain
right.
it all.
That's what I'm going with.
Hey, look, you know.
Rob, I
Yeah,
wanted
so
to
we
ask you. Oh, go ahead. No,
No,
go
you're
ahead.
good.
Finish. I just wanted to ask you. Nice. Now I can't even get it. You talk a little bit on your website about your grandpa, and you had mentioned to me a little bit. Tell me a good story about your grandpa and kind of how he maybe, because I know I believe Amanda said you guys used to go have breakfast with him every Saturday morning.
We still do, yeah.
Before the farmers market, stuff like that. So give me a nice story about your grandpa. We talk about our dads on here a lot and us being dads and things like that. So we're always interested in stories like that.
Yeah, so let me first just kind of tell you about him, and then I've got a sports specific story that I think would be fun. But he's 98 years old, still lives on his own. This summer was the first summer that he didn't at least mow part of his own yard.
Mm-hmm.
He's just he's amazing, right? Like, and he is the quintessential Iowan, quintessential Midwestern. My grandma passed away a few years ago, but they were married for 63 years.
Oh, wow.
So, he's always been kind of like, he's just, hardworking. He would come home, and my grandma, it was such like a perfect kind of thing. She would kind of wait for him. She'd have dinner started. We'd see him pull in the driveway. He'd come in. He'd kind of have like a beer that he would pour into a smaller glass 3 times. I remember it so well. And he would bitch about work, which right. That's what you got to do when you get home.
Yep.
So kind of bitch about work for a little bit. Then we'd eat dinner, and then he'd usually just kind of lay down on the floor and take a little nap before he'd go in and watch the game or whatever. And so he grew up on a farm, and so he was on an acreage, and he always had a lot of crops in the summer, a lot of sweet corn. Just very handy, works on small engines. That was his job. Just like I said, just the quintessential Iowan, right? And you wouldn't find a nicer guy. He's still, family man, all that. So he's just always been someone that I really look up to and really admire. And in a lot of ways, he inspires what we try to do with Brown Dogs Farm, in kind of a macro sense, and that we want to bring something to the table that is good and that people can enjoy, that is from their neck of the woods, right? And from people that they can relate to. And we hope that we accomplish that. But as far as like a good story about him, like I grew up being a Cubs fan because of them. My grandma, my grandpa, big Cubs fans. I remember, one day Harry Carey mentioned my grandma when it was her birthday, and we had to watch that. And
awesome.
And so it was like awesome. Like, we were super big Cubs fans. And they just never won, right? They just never won. And this goes back to kind of what we were talking about earlier about only having so many teams that you could watch back at this time.
Right.
And I want to say that they were in their 60s, 70s, maybe something like that, 70s, probably in the early 70s. And I came over, it's opening day, I'm coming over, we're going to watch the Cubs, despite, how many times we've been burnt by them, just gluttonous for punishment. So
and knew the
day,
season wasn't going to be any good anyways.
Yeah, right. I mean, my favorite Cubs player of all time is Jerome Walton, which, like, what did he do? I don't know, but that's my guy, right? So,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
right? Like Andre Dawson, Mark
no,
Grace, no.
I've always been I've never like chosen the mainstream guy. I always had to do things a little bit different. So like Jerome Walton, like nobody really gives a shit about him. That's my guy. Yeah, I think he hit a home run his first time up at bat, and then I was loyal after that. And I could be wrong on that, but you're not going to check me. Yeah, so he definitely hit a home run his first at bat, and then he was my favorite player. Anyways, I show up opening day, super excited. Let's watch the Cubs. It's going to be fun. Maybe this will be the year. And they're watching the Braves. And I'm like, what? What are we doing? And they're like, nah, we're done. Like, we're just done. I want to watch the Braves. The Braves win. I want to win this year. I want to watch somebody win. And it was hilarious. And I tried to plead with them to turn it over to the Cubs. They were stuck. It lasted like 2 weeks and they were back to watching the Cubs. But, everybody reaches their breaking point, right? And that was it for them. Yeah, I don't know what year it was, but, they had Maddox and Glavine and all those guys that were winning games.
The irony would have been if it was the year that they canceled the World Series and they were the best team in baseball. That would have been the irony of that.
I mean, if we could just say that that's what happened to make the story better.
There you go.
I grew up a Dodger fan largely because of my grandparents, and then they moved to Arkansas and they became Braves fans since that was the only thing they could get on TV in Arkansas was Atlanta games. So that kind of broke my heart. To see them go over there.
Crushing, right?
Yeah, it was. And then they moved to Arizona, and I don't think they really paid attention to anyone at that point. But that's funny. You like to think that you're done and you're gonna go, but sometimes I think every Viking fan has had that feeling of I'm done. This team sucks. A lot of times I see Vikings fans, I think, actively root for the team to do poorly at some point. Like you almost become an anti-fan
sure.
just because of sheer cynicism. I think Chris is probably that way with the Bears at times.
Oh yeah. We're back though, baby. Justin Fields, we're back.
Yeah, it's been exciting.
I did see the video, the viral video of Kirk Cousins dancing shirtless in the airplane on the way back from Washington. Yeah. And I tweeted back out and said, if that's not kicking karma right in the stones and asking for a wide left by their kicker or a game crushing interception, I don't know what is. I mean, you talk about just spitting right in the face of karma. That takes some guts.
Well, first of all, that was the one that went viral, but he's been doing it after every win, and it's just gotten progressively.
And he's gotten more and more chains, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's more and more chains and less shirts. So that's part of what that is. And also, if you want to say you're taunting fate by a wide left kick, too late. There's no such thing as karma with the Vikings. Karma would be for that to finally go right one of these years.
Yeah.
So you can't really taunt the thing that you know is coming.
No, Kirk's playing with house money for sure. If he can do anything to be exciting, that's he's got no chance.
He's oh boy. He's frustrating. He's a really, really, really good quarterback, but particularly during prime time, he sucks. Or when it's going to come down to the playoffs this year, I just don't have faith. The way I described him earlier this season is that because even in games where the Vikings won, he very nearly gave a couple of them away. I said that he's like a really, really, really good meal that gives you diarrhea afterwards. Like you really enjoy it, but you still know that something could probably go wrong. So I hate to be so pessimistic, but again, I am a Viking fan. So that's just all part and parcel of it.
I mean, I think that's just the position, though, right? Like, what quarterback do you really trust at this point? There's no. I mean, I'm a Rams fan because, again, I'm a loyal guy, and they had a receiver named Flipper Anderson.
I thought that Flipper.
I was like, I want to say I was like 8 to 10 years old. I don't know, but I thought that was like the coolest name I'd ever heard. So I'm like, that's my team, right? And I've stuck with them. And so like last year, Stafford. I like to say that I call him Matt when he's throwing the ball good. I call him Matthew when he's throwing the ball terrible. And I called him Matthew a lot. Like he was Matthew all the way. And even in the Super Bowl at times, it's like, what are you doing? There's no quarterback that's trustworthy.
No, No,
I don't know, man. Josh Allen is
ooh.
Did he just have a couple really bad picks?
Yeah, I was gonna say
he got hurt this last game.
You obviously don't have him in fantasy because the past couple of weeks have been a little bit rough.
I don't know. I will say, just to go back on Kirk Cousins, I to your point, Rob, earlier when we talked about fandom and sticking with one team or whatever. I'm a diehard Bears fan. I can't tell you how many times this year I thought I've had enough. I don't want to be a fan anymore. I'm going to pick a new team. And then I go to my closet and I see all my Bears stuff and Sunday comes around and I know they're going to blow it. And my wife asked me to go do something. And I said, well, I can't because the Bears game's on at noon. So, I mean, I get it, but it's funny how when Cousins came into the league, I rooted for him hard in Washington because they drafted him 2 rounds after RG3 in the same year. Nobody kind of gave him a chance. And then he would come in there and outplay him. And I kind of became a big fan of Kirk Cousins until the minute he signed with the Vikings. And I instantly hated him because the color of his jersey. Like I absolutely, I despise everything about him. But when he played for Washington, I dug him. I loved him. It's kind of weird how that fandom works that way.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but shirtless Kurt, like that's Kurt Thuggins, I think is what I heard. and yes. that guy is impossible not to like. Like that guy is awesome. You'd want to hang out with him.
Yeah, well, because
him and his 6-pack.
Well, he has such a milk toast, otherwise like he comes across as like your most boring cousin's boring husband so much of the time in like some terrible plaid short sleeve button down shirts.
He's that Steve Buscemi GIF is what he is. It's exactly what he is.
I mean, yeah, he certainly has some of that, but because he started off his career 0-9 in Monday night games. But he has his last 2 Monday night games were wins against the Bears, so I think that has certainly helped.
Just gotta take a shot.
Well, no. They are the antidote to what ails you. They are a slump buster.
Ouch.
Yikes.
Yeah, and it's easy to hate on Cousins, and I think there have been certainly some bad breaks that have gone for him. And he puts up, but he's also, to me, he's also an example of unbelievable stats don't tell the whole story, right? Like I'd rather have a guy with mediocre stats who always wins than somebody who puts up 300 yards a game and can't get the job done. Which, in the world of fantasy sports, that's really kind of changed for people on who they think is a good player and who they think isn't.
True. Yeah, I have a general distrust of quarterbacks. They just, and there's only been one that seems to always come through and I don't even want to say his name. Like
he's not this year. I know who you're talking about, and he's not this year, so that helps.
Yeah, but I thought the Rams killed him last year. I thought that interception was the end of it, and then he's back, and then he just beat us in like the last 30 seconds, and it's like, what is happening? Why won't this guy go away?
Have you heard the Giselle witch theory that's out there? Have you heard this theory? The theory is that Giselle is really a witch who's cast a spell on him for the last few years to allow him to continue to perform. And now that they've had a falling out, her spell has lifted, and he's now just a normal, everyday quarterback who can't win.
Who are you talking to? What fourth grade Reddit are you on that you're hearing this?
It was on TikTok.
But then he's undefeated since being divorced. So,
yeah, because he lost the night before that they announced their divorce, so he took 2 L's in like a 12-hour period. So
it's like it was so much fun to watch. And this is sports hate. This isn't. I don't know him as a person. He might be a nice guy. I don't know. I don't care. But sports wise, I've just really enjoyed watching it crumble around him.
That's how I am with Aaron Rodgers. to watch him throw a couple red zone interceptions and for him to just struggle just makes my heart glow. I'm so happy.
That offense does not know what they're doing, and it has been very funny to watch Packer fans turn on him. The number of Packer fans I have, whether that be online or locally, that have wished that they would have moved him during the offseason now. The guy who made them all forget about Brett Favre, and now they are all ready to move on. It doesn't help that he ruined any goodwill he had by being a complete tool. Right.
He's so smug.
Yeah, that's what I can't stand about him. Last year when he did that whole "I own you." And then we lost to him this year, and I remember I told my wife, I was like, I don't fucking get why somebody on this Bears team doesn't go over there and just pound the shit out of him. Like, have at least a little bit of like manhood and stop taking the ass kicking all the time and just go over there and just smack him one time. Like, I don't get that. How can don't you get tired of just getting your ass kicked by the same guy over and over and over again? It's so fucking frustrating.
Yeah, they really are professionals out there, right? They don't just go and act like that. My sisters are both.
If they did,
my sisters are both Packer fans, so I have to kind of tread lightly when it comes to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. I do kind of poke at him with it, like, man, isn't he just such a dick? Like, too bad he didn't quit.
Yeah, so there was one time where they beat the Vikings, and for his post-game press conference, he drank a grape, so a purple crush, which I thought was one of the more brilliant trolling jobs. Yeah. I hated to admit it, but it was actually brilliant. And he did it just so tongue in cheek with barely a nod to the camera. God, I hated how brilliant that was.
Yeah, a nice subtle troll. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm sorry I missed that.
we're gonna go ahead and take another break here, and then we're gonna come back. I think Chris, we're gonna have a question for him after the break, correct?
Yes, sponsored by Wintrust Mortgage.
Yes, so we'll go ahead and get another word from our sponsor, Kyle Lehman at Wintrust Mortgage, and we'll be right back.
Are you in the market for a new house and unsure of the mortgage process? Want to know that you have someone looking out for you? Kyle Lehman from Wintrust Mortgage is a down-to-earth, knowledgeable lender who can be there for you in your corner. He can work with you in any of the 50 states and is just what you need to expand your home search. Kyle will work with you through the entire process with little to no work from you. Take the worry of the mortgage process out of the equation so that you can focus on looking for your dream home. Contact Kyle at www.wintrust.com/Kyle-Lehman or call him at 515-473-0546.
As teased before that quick break, we do have our special Wintrust Mortgage question. Chris, I will go ahead and let you take this one away.
Well, we'll see if Rob has listened this far into the podcast that he said he listened to. Wintrust Mortgage sponsors our question here. It's 2022. I would say that probably things have changed for you quite a bit in the last 10 years, Rob. So what does Rob 2022 version of Rob go back and tell 2012 version Rob? What's a piece of advice you go back and tell him?
Oh man. Yeah. There's so much, right? There's just so much. But man, it's just like be yourself, right? Like, and whoever that is. And I think that in a lot of ways, society is a lot more accepting. It's a lot easier to kind of be yourself these days. I do feel like, the toxic man thing was like a kind of a bigger deal. And this is an old man take on an old man podcast. So I feel okay about that. But, it really was like you had, and like I said before, my personality is such that like I do things to the extreme, right? And that's kind of what's made me successful with the hot sauce company. Is, you know, a lot of people wouldn't have just like pushed it so hard, right? They would have had more trepidation or more caution. And I just don't have that for whatever reason. I just push through all these things that I, you know, sometimes maybe I should kind of take pause of. And mostly it's in regards to, you know, like someone said once, like, no one's going to remember if you aren't at the party. Right. And it always feels like such a big deal. Like you have to be there. And for me, it would be that I had to be there and I had to take the most shots or you know, drink the most beers or whatever, but just be yourself and whatever that is. That's, you know, find out what that is and really lean into those things, you know, lean into those things that really make you happy and not so much just what you think you should be doing, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that advice. I mean, I think like you said, like great example of you figuring out kind of a little bit later what you really wanted to do and being able to embrace that and turn it into something that is growing and continue to develop and done a lot in the last 4 years. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. And you know, who knows where it'll be in 5 or 10 more years, right? Yeah, maybe we'll be doing some of these promotions at the major league level. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully, right? I mean, like, I spent so much time just chasing this and becoming kind of a character of myself, where I was just like this party guy, right? I was a bartender. My mom would say I was a good time Charlie, right? And I don't know what the hell that means. But look, it was a lot of fun. If you hung out with me, you know, before midnight, it was probably a lot of fun. If you hung out with me maybe after midnight, some nights it would get pretty dark, right? And I don't have any of that now. And I kind of get to do all the things that I love. I get to kind of emulate more of that lifestyle that I grew up idolizing from my grandpa. You know, and I've got the dogs, I've got an acreage, I've got courtside seats to the Iowa Wolves, which, you know, to a basketball head like me is a super big deal, right? So yeah, it's been great, and you know, I wish I had learned that in 2012 instead of 2022, and you know, who knows how much further along I'd be at this point, right? Yeah, you know, that's not how life works, though, man. You know, no, it's right. I don't even like to say life is a journey, because a journey implies there's a destination, and I don't think that's what it is for a lot of us. I think it's constant discovery and reinvention and figuring out. You know, I've spent so much time trying to figure out who I'm supposed to be that I haven't bothered to learn who I am in the moment. Right. So I appreciate that you've kind of found that for yourself, and that's pretty fantastic. And it seems like you're doing a great job of living in that moment and appreciating it without necessarily taking it for granted.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like it's not all rainbows and lollipops, right? Like I still have to, you know, stop myself from looking too far, you know, from focusing too much on the future. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes you have to just sit back and be really happy with where you are, instead of always trying to think about what your next challenge is going to be and how you're going to dominate that challenge, right? Like I come from a pretty competitive background. Like, you know, I've always played sports, and competition is a big deal, and I like to win, you know? And so I always am pushing myself, and it's important for me to kind of take stock of where I am and enjoy the place that I'm at, as well as, you know, put, you know, just take your foot off the gas once in a while, like coast.
Yeah. Tim and I, we've talked a lot about that, Tim, in some earlier episodes about, you know, decisions and regrets, and do we have any, and would we change anything? And I think we've kind of came to the conclusion that we probably wouldn't. I would like to have different outcomes, obviously, and things like that. But to go back and make a different decision, I don't know that I would be where I'm at now as a husband, a father, you know, my job or my friendships or what I bring to relationships that I'm in. I don't know that. Would I like to have different outcomes of some of those decisions? Yeah, for sure. But
Yeah.
I don't know that I don't know that I would be any better of a person now than I am now.
Sure.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
mean,
probably true.
there's certainly some lessons, people a lot of time like to say, well, I wouldn't be who if I was if I didn't learn that lesson. Well, there are some lessons that, I did the wrong thing and I knew it was there. Like, you don't have to learn, like, not everything has to be experienced to know that it's wrong. And I feel like,
Yeah.
There's certainly some of those things where, I did the wrong thing. And had I just paused to think about it, I would have known that I didn't need to learn that for myself, but through experience, I could learn that by just thinking or observing or some of those things. And so I think, there's certainly some of that. But there are also a lot of things where I don't, it took me forever to figure out what I wanted to do for a career. And I spent too much time in the corporate world before realizing, no, Tim, you do really, truly hate being in an office and being at a desk and being in a corporate environment. And you lied to yourself for 15 years trying to figure out how to make this work. And you finally learned to not do that. Right. But at the same time, I also don't know if I would appreciate it as much as I do now because of that. So, yeah, it's, it cuts both ways for sure.
Right. Yeah. Like basically like, there's an easier path than what you took. Right. Like for myself in particular. And look, with addiction, I think, you talk about being yourself and when addiction comes into play, like you lose yourself. Right. And like that person that I was when I was an alcoholic, that wasn't like true to who I really am. Mm-hmm. Now, like you said, would I have the same level of appreciation for this life that I have now if I hadn't, struggled through that piece of it? Absolutely not. Right. Like, people who've always just kind of had it made don't realize that they have it made. Right.
Yeah.
And that's why you see no matter how easy your life gets, people still find ways to make it difficult, and that's just human nature, right? You always want what you don't have. And you got to remind yourself sometimes that like, oh, this is good. Like I'm good.
Yeah, no, I just kind of look at the end probably of my time or whatever and look back. I don't know that I would change anything. I wish that things were a little different in the present. And I think it's important to recognize those things in the present and then make those changes now and make the best decision you can and do what's right in your heart, right? We've talked a lot on here about my oldest and some of the decisions that she's made and some of the ways that I've handled that and not handled it. And I'm a completely different father to her than I am to my other kids based off of circumstances and situations. And the decisions I'm making right now when it comes to her are probably not the same decisions that if I was in that same position, I would make 5 years from now, just right. Because my experience is different. Right. So I just think at this point, you just kind of look at how your life is living and you make the best decision you can day to day.
Sometimes you just have to live with the consequences. Like I decided this one time to do this podcast with this guy, and I very easily could have backed out very early, and yet here I am, and I just feel like I just kind of have to deal with the consequences of that.
I told you 1,000 times not to do that with Aaron. I like how you set that up so we can make fun of Aaron. Nice job. It's all right. He stopped listening 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Robb, as Chris has said, I don't know if you've listened this far into any of our podcasts. We do have a relatively new segment. And this is really where you talk about going off the rails or talking about on a tangent. This is your opportunity. So, Chris, our last segment, I'll let you go ahead and introduce it.
Yeah. So it's a fairly new segment that we've enacted the last few times. It is based off of Steph Copley, who was a previous guest of ours. Her STFU moment. At one point in the podcast, she basically just told Tim and I to shut the hell up, shut the F up, and let her speak. And so we enacted that, and she decided that she wanted to sponsor that. And we decided what we would do is we would make a joint donation to the Young Women's Resource Center and encourage our listeners to go to the Young Women's Resource Center's website, listen to this quick little message from Steph, and make a donation to help to help that. So with that, this is where Tim and I shut the fuck up and let Rob say whatever the hell he wants.
Hey everybody, it's Steph Copley, the woman behind the STFU segment on the Old Man Strength podcast. When I told the guys I wanted to sponsor this segment, they recommended that I make a charitable donation instead, so that's what I did. I chose the Young Women's Resource Center in Des Moines, Iowa. They're a nonprofit that supports, educates, and advocates for girls and young women ages 10 to 24. Their whole goal is to make sure that these young women become strong, self-confident, and successful. And if you know me at all, you know that aligns with my goals as well. If you're interested and would like to donate, check them out at ywrc.org and donate today. And remember, don't forget to STFU and listen every once in a while. Thanks.
Oh no. Man. This seems like a terrible idea. No, to be honest, like I just kind of say whatever I want all the time. It was just, it's a gift. It's just a gift. It's not a curse at all. Like I don't have a very good filter. And because of that, like, I don't know what there would be that I would need you guys to shut up for a minute about so that I could talk. Like, I don't want to get into anything that I shouldn't, I mean, like I hate politics. Yesterday was voting day. And don't get me wrong, like, I understand that they are necessary. I hate the worship of politics. So I guess now I'm kind of getting into it. Like, I don't care if you're on the red team or if you're on the blue team. That's great. Like, that's fine. But like, do you really agree with every single thing that either side is saying? Because I want you to be your own person and have your own thoughts. And I think that most people probably land somewhere more in the middle than they tend to admit. And in our current situation, where like this is the old man strength podcast, but we're talking about like really, really old man, right? And like I also understand that like there's nobody that's like 55, 60 years old, super successful, really good at making money, who's like, you know what I want to do? I want a job where half the people in the country are just going to shit on me all the time. I'm going to be under a fucking microscope. Like nothing I can do will please everyone. That's what, I want to be president. That's what I want to do. There's nobody in their right mind that wants that job. And I totally understand that. And so just like the worshiping of either side is insane to me. Like, again, I don't care. You're red, you're blue. That's fine. I personally like green. It's the color of money. It's what we're really all about. I think at the end of the day, outside of our families and the things that are important. And again, like as much red or as much difference as you might be if you're on one of those political teams, like you're way more alike than any difference you have with someone. Right. And so, yeah, I guess, on the day after the elections, a quick little anti-politics rant from me maybe is fitting, but I just, it's not like you're rooting for Iowa or Iowa State where it's just a game, right? Like it's just, it's what did they call politics? Hollywood for ugly people. I think that's what it is. It's so much theater. I don't really see any difference in my life from one term to the next. Like I'm the one who makes my life good or bad. It doesn't really happen, thousands of miles away in Washington, and it really doesn't even happen at a granular level. And look, I understand that that's probably not like there are like some human rights issues and gun control and all these very important things that need to be argued about. And I don't disagree that they need to be argued about, but I think, probably at some level, both sides are necessary but you fighting with your uncle or your cousin about the shit is insane to me. Like, stop it. Just be cool. Like, just be cool with each other.
Perfect said.
Just be cool with each other.
There you go.
No, I love that. And if politics is Hollywood for ugly people, Chris, I really think you will do great in politics, and I look forward to.
So I was going to take the high road on that. I was totally going to let it go.
Oh no, not me. I'm right down in the mud. That's fine.
And I'm so sorry to anyone I offended with all that. Right?
That's the whole point of that segment. Nobody's allowed to get offended. Andrew Downs talked about how great Iowa Hawkeye seasons were. We had to sit here and take it last week.
There have been some really good ones.
No,
boring but good.
No,
right.
I mean, it's like I still would rather lose every game 42-35. If I'm being honest, like I would love to see some points up on the board.
Well, then you could be a Cyclone fan.
There you go.
Right. Y'all have it made.
No. Excellent. Well, shoot.
At least then you think you got a chance, right?
Oh God.
I mean,
it's not like just at the end of it, you're like, well, that was kind of fun, right? You're not like, did my pulse stop? Like, what happened? Like, third and 1, we lost 5 yards again.
Oh God. Well. Anyway, Rob, with that, man, we really appreciate this. This was a lot of fun. We hope we have you back on at some point. Certainly, you ever make it up to Minneapolis, let's set up a T-Wolves game. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've already been to one this year. I'll be out there again.
Oh, excellent. So one last opportunity. Why don't you go ahead and plug where people can find you on the web, where people can find your product?
Yeah, again, we keep everything super simple. It's browndogsfarm.com, and that's, the dogs are plural, the farm is singular, so it's browndogsfarm.com. Facebook, Brown Dogs Farm, Instagram, Brown Dogs Farm, Twitter, we don't have one. Whatever other social platforms. Oh, do we really?
You do. I tagged it.
Yeah, you know what? I think my brother was supposed to run that, and that was 4 years ago. And I'm guessing
there has not been a post since 2019. I'll let you know.
Nice,
but I tagged you the other day.
Yeah, well, we've been shadow banned. I don't know what that means, but I hear people.
Elon Musk will get you right back up there. You drive. Yeah. Amanda drives a Tesla. You guys are tight, right?
We were too controversial for the old regard, the old guard, the old regard. I don't know. This has gone on too long. I'm not making sense.
Well, I will take a couple minutes to announce that Rob, you did say earlier in the podcast that you like to hook up with smart, intelligent, fun organizations, and yet you still decided to become a sponsor here with Three Beards Media, so we do appreciate that. I'm super excited to announce that Rob is going to be one of the primary sponsors of Side of the Storm, which is our podcast with Marcus Pfizer, big basketball fan that you are, and Brent Curvey, and George Trice, who is the head of the Jack Trice Legacy Foundation. They do our podcast Side of the Storm. So Brown Dogs Farm is the sponsor of that. And in addition to Fill in the Blank with Anya, which is a great little podcast that does sports and basketball. And she's a big Gonzaga fan, so we won't hold that against her when they come in the Big 12. So
I haven't told Anya yet that I'm ready for Gonzaga in the Big 12, because I'm preparing for hot takes.
There you go.
Yep.
That being said, I've been told by Marcus and Brent and George that they need product. So I'll get with you, Rob, so that we can pay for some product to get them. They would love to try it out and do some tasting on the podcast and start plugging you guys up. So and
absolutely
and as well. So
yeah, it sounds like a hot take segment is coming up.
That's
spicy.
What it sounds like.
Spicy take, right?
Spicy take.
Spiciest take of the week or whatever.
Ooh,
I don't know.
I like that.
That sounds
That's
great.
Fantastic.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And then Tim, I will make one more announcement if it's all right. This podcast that I'm going to announce has been in the works for a while. I am extremely proud that we get to join in partnership with the Des Moines Police Department. And Sergeant Paul Parizic is going to graciously do a podcast with a friend of mine. He's a former radio host here in Des Moines, Dave Campbell. and they are going to start launching Des Moines Police Department Inside the Tape. This podcast is going to be a super important podcast of cold cases, current solved cases. It's going to be recorded in the Des Moines police station. They will have officers and different departments on that were involved in certain crimes and things like that. We are looking at a target date at the end of the year. So Three Beards Media is extremely proud to partnership with the Des Moines Police Department on this endeavor, and we hope that, especially with the cold case, that we're able to help bring some relief to the families. When I sat down and talked to Paul and Heather Burnside, his wife, who were former guests on the podcast last year, Paul said one of the best things about doing this podcast is that the relief on the family's face when they realize that they haven't been forgotten and that somebody still cares about their loved ones and cares about those cases. They're meticulous. They take their time. They do their due diligence to make sure that whatever they're bringing on the podcast is going to be accurate. And I, for one, and I know Tim and Aaron and the whole team here at Three Beards Media is extremely proud that they came to us and asked us to be a part of it. So that is the big announcement that Tim and I have been kind of teasing for the last few months. We are finalizing some things, and we hope to have episodes out by the end of the year.
Yeah, very, very exciting stuff. And like you said, very important, helping to kind of shine a light on something that's probably been getting into the darkness for a while, and helping to bring, a lot of fresh eyes and a lot of fresh thought to a lot of those things. Very, very exciting, very humbled that they are going to be a part of this Three Beards Media family. One other thing too, I can't even beat that announcement. One other thing I did want to mention, Bitter Units every year we partner with a sister beer podcast on a holiday live stream where people raise money. Last year, I think it was something like $1,500 we raised for Feeding America. We're looking at what charities we're going to do this year, but that will be on December 10th. So please go and check out the Three Birds Media stream and the Bitter Unit stream to learn a little bit more about what that looks like as we get into the holiday season. We do this at Three Birds Media not to enrich ourselves, but to be able to take part in giving back to charities and sponsoring things that are important to us. So we're very excited that we have been graciously blessed with partners like Robb, Brown Dogs Farm and Revelton Distilling and Wintrust Mortgage that are allowing us to give a platform for some of these things. So thank you very much to our sponsors and to you guys, our listeners, for making sure that we continue to be able to provide this content for everyone. Boy, with that was a lot, but some pretty awesome stuff. We appreciate you guys listening to everything. Please go ahead and check out all of those things on the Three Beards Media Network. As Aaron said, Sigh of the Storm, Fill in the Blank with Anya, the Hot Mess Happy Hour, which has been just a hoot already, Bitter Units, and of course, Old Man Strength. And with that, we will see you guys next time.